How are you, Jeff?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
Good. Happy Family Day.
Happy Family Day. Happy Monday, podcast day.
And thanks for coming all the way here on the Family Day just to shoot this podcast with me.
No problem. Like Vin Diesel says, we don't have friends, we have family.
That's right. That's right. Family. Hashtag family. You're going to give me a Dodger, right? Next car?
Yes.
This is going to be, as you know, you listeners are listening, this is a new series that we're bringing out for this year. We like to call it the News Roundup. Basically, we gather all the biggest news that we got for Vancouver Real Estate when we're just going to have an open conversation with you guys about it. And then afterwards, if you guys want to partake, because we would love to hear your opinions on all of this as well, and just to see what your opinion on it is. We'll give our opinion. It doesn't mean that we're saying, you know, whatever our opinion is right. This is just our opinion. But I think that some of these, if you're not in real estate every single day, you might not know.
Yeah, and the whole idea is, number one, is never change, is to educate and also to have some conversations about it.
Exactly. So without further ado, we have a pretty long podcast today. So why don't we get right into it with the first piece of news? I'll let you take this one because you actually brought this to my attention a couple of days ago. Yeah.
All right, so as you guys can see up here, the article says BC Housing is being investigated on whether affordable housing units have been rented on Airbnb/Expedia. Now this came from the Vancouver Sun. Obviously, judging from the title, it's kind of like a whoa. Yeah. Like, this kind of behavior can really upset a lot of people, especially with rental rates the way that they are right now.
Right.
So a little bit of background information. So BC Liberals, they listed 6 buildings across the province in different areas. This particular case was in Merritt. So in 2020, they got about $16.5 million in low interest financing from the developer in exchange for guaranteed affordable housing for people who are of middle income.
Yeah.
And some qualifications include they have to earn less than $99,000 as a household.
A family, okay.
Okay, so I think at first glance, it's a great idea to build more affordable housing. I believe the vacancy rate in Merritt is also very, very low, and there aren't a lot of new developments there. So of course, when you first hear it, great. However, this is the part of the article where it stirs up a lot of negative emotions.
Yep.
Apparently, there were units that were being listed on Airbnb and Expedia for $250 a night.
$250 a night. Let's just go times that by 30. You're looking at over $7,000.
Yeah, $7,500 if you're at full occupancy.
Okay. Now, that is no affordable housing, that's for sure.
45 out of the 75 units are supposed to be reserved for affordable housing. And I think they range from about $1,000 to $1,650 a month for a 3-bedroom unit. So it's from studio to 3-bedroom.
Okay.
And that's what David Eby had in plan in 2021 when he was still the housing minister and attorney general.
Okay.
And since this article came out, David Eby said, you know what, like that pricing was supposed to be held in place for at least a decade.
So 10 years, okay.
For 10 years. The new housing minister has said that there's actually a covenant when dealing with these developers that they're not supposed to put any of these units on Airbnb. So it seems like, oh, okay, so the responsibility is being shirked from one person to the other. I'm getting a lot of mixed feelings about this.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll let you share what your thoughts are first.
Okay.
And then I will kind of share mine.
Sure. Based on everything that you told me and what I read the article a little bit as well. One of the things they were saying is like 45 out of the 75 units must be below market value, like, you know, below market rent.
Yeah.
Right? So there's about 30 of them that they don't have to follow or buy below market rent. Now, I never read the contract. I don't know whether the 30 is part of the 75 that the housing minister says that you're not allowed to do Airbnb or what have you. I don't know about that. We don't know about that. But it basically, based on the things that you have just told me, I feel like it's like the developer found a loophole that maybe the government wasn't really tracking, and then they just jump with it, right? Because a couple of things, the reason why I say this is, number one, you already said Merritt is very underdeveloped. They need more developments there because I know that a lot of people in Merritt, they have to live in a basement suite, not because they are wanting the lower rent, it's just because there's nowhere else for them to stay.
Correct.
Right. So with that being said, the developer might be like, okay, well, I got this low interest loan from the government. They only restricted 45 out of the 75. They never said what I can do with the rest of the 30, right? Or maybe they missed it and then they just decided to just, maximize the profit. Because I always say, and well, it's not the first time I said this here, a developer is not charity work. They're in it for themselves and they have their own families that they want to take care of. Granted, yeah, the argument could be like, they can take care of the family with $100,000. Who doesn't want more? Everybody wants more. We're greedy as a species, right? That's what I think probably most likely happened. And the second reason why I think it was probably a loophole is because, like, come on, Airbnb, it's so obvious where you're trying to rent it. You can literally see it. There's a map function on Airbnb.
Yeah.
So you can actually see it. So what I'm thinking is if the developer has that covenant as per the housing minister, they just don't care. Like, you know what I'm trying to say?
It seems like some pretty bold behavior.
Yes.
And especially when you're in an underserviced area like Merritt,
Yeah.
there probably aren't that many desirable Airbnbs around. So of course, being a new or newish building, you're going to get a lot of attention from people who are visiting in that area.
Right. So for me, it's like, in order for a developer just to be so ballsy and just post it right on Airbnb, that probably means that something was missed by either the developer, maybe it was written in there, they missed it, or maybe the government didn't include that 30 into the 75. Yeah, that's below market value within that has that covenant.
Yeah,
within the rental.
It could have been an oversight. Maybe they did a handshake deal and was like, okay, yep, I trust you, and then there was just no follow-up on making sure the developer actually followed through.
Right.
But I agree with you. Like, developers are in business to make money.
Yes.
As are you and I and any entrepreneur. Who doesn't want to make more money?
Right.
But I also don't think that they'd be that stupid to blatantly break the law like that, because they might get fined. It might, I don't know. Like, the risk is just a little bit too high to me.
You're giving the developer the benefit of the doubt.
In this case, yes.
Yeah.
But I also feel like on the government side, like, wouldn't it have made more sense to maybe, instead of offering the developers low interest loans, why wouldn't they just give these middle income and low income people subsidized rents?
And have them to go...
Exactly. So let the developer charge the market price, but then the government say, okay, you're renting in this building, we will offer you $300 a month in credit or as a grant.
Yeah.
I feel like that would actually help the people a little bit more.
Right.
When they make a deal like this and they're only involving the developer, it just makes the average consumer feel even more inconsequential and overlooked.
Right. No, I agree. I totally agree. And another thing that got me really thinking when you told me about this article is who told the media about this kind of stuff. I have a feeling it's actually the people that maybe wanted the below market rental.
Yes.
Because once again, Merritt is very undersupply, what have you. But then they turn around and realize that they're Airbnb for $250 a night. So those guys probably got super pissed off. And they just went, the media needs to know about this.
Well, yeah, like 45 families or singles in a town is not a lot of people at all.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So, and why haven't we heard it from other projects? Why is it this specific project? I think there's many reasons behind it. And once again, we don't have a conclusion to this because we don't know what was written in the contract. But based on just at least how the story was presented, I feel like this was probably an oversight by someone, for sure.
Yeah.
Either by the developer side of things or by the government side of things.
Or someone could have actually qualified as a low income or middle income and then put their own unit up on Airbnb, and then maybe they found another place. Maybe they moved back into their family home. So like they subletted it.
Yep, they could do that as well. And if that is taken as really shame on that guy.
Shame on that guy.
Like really shame on that guy.
But also good for him for having that business mindset. No, we don't support that like kind of behavior at all. Like that's a huge morality issue.
Perspective. What are you saying? It's all about perspective.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this story unfolds. Maybe we'll circle back to this next month or when we have an update.
No, it's definitely good. I really like this one. I think we should definitely follow up on it just to see like what was actually written.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's one right in town. They say that they have one of this in North Vancouver.
Yep. So we'll keep an eye on it and then we'll update you guys when we know. For now, let's change gears a little bit. This one's a little bit closer to home and more of a domestic issue, it seems, and a social issue too.
I think so.
Which I will let Joe take the role on this one.
It's just the timing for it is just too good. But long story short, the article right here, court orders BC woman to pay dead boyfriend's estate of $400,000 after she spent it all. Long story short, not to bore you guys, there was, let's just say, boyfriend, girlfriend. They're kind of in their 40s already. The boyfriend already has kids. They're 2 kids. I think when all of this happened, they were like 8 or 11. So anyways, unfortunately, the boyfriend overdosed through fentanyl. So he passed away. So the girlfriend basically says, oh, we were common laws, we were living together for more than 2 years, blah, 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 blah. And then she stated that before the boyfriend passed away through fentanyl overdose, she got a payment from the boyfriend conveniently for $350,000 to thank her for taking care of her and taking care of him and having him to have this lifestyle. So it's almost like, thanks for being with me. Here's $350,000.
What is she, like an escort? I'm sorry, but like that description, who in their right mind would believe that?
Right. So, however, obviously when all of this kind of played out, the boyfriend had an ex-wife. So the ex-wife came, the administrator of the states, they came in and be like, yo, you're not supposed to do that. That $350,000 is supposed to go into a trust fund that you're supposed to give it to the next generation, the 2 kids, when the requirement has been met. And obviously this is where things kind of go, basically went back and forth. And then they kind of dived deeper, a little bit more into it, and then they started interviewing, they started looking at paperwork. They realized that the girlfriend was actually lying. She hasn't actually been living with the boyfriend for 2 years. The closest, she had her own little rental address. She still files taxes through the older, the rental property that she has, and it's still under her BC Hydro. So basically on record, it seems like she's still living in her previous address.
Yeah.
The only thing that got close to having that sense like they might be living together as common law is that they sign up for a points membership card together, like a Save on Food card or something, like a Loblaws membership card or something like that, under the boyfriend's address. And then they also interviewed the kids, and then the kids very specifically said, no, this lady hasn't lived with my dad for more than 2 years. So that whole relationship of common law then was getting challenged, and then never really even happened that they were actually common laws.
What a dirtbag move. This sounds like a bad soap opera.
Yeah, it is.
You can't even script this kind of stuff.
It is.
I'm so glad that this story came to light, because hopefully it'll dissuade other people from trying the same.
So with my experience, I know for a fact that this actually happens more often than not. It's just whether or not a media is basically picking up on it or not, right? So these are my thoughts. Obviously, don't do drugs. Fentanyl is crazy. Let's just get that out of the way.
That's what you mean by impeccable timing with this decriminalization. Okay?
Right. Everybody has their thing, but I say if you don't have to do drugs, don't do drugs. The second thing and the core thing I take out of this is, why are you not doing your will? Honestly, guys, I don't care if you're buying a 1-bedroom condo or a $10 million mansion or a $10 million yacht. Anything that is of value that that people is going to want after you die, it needs to be in the will. Guys, I'm not 40 yet, but every time I buy some sort of real estate, I have a new will. I need to let people know that if something were to happen, because the world is very unpredictable, if something were to happen, knock on wood, I don't want it, but if something were to happen, I have already provided instructions on what to do with all the things that I have remaining. Right? When you don't have a will, a direct will, excuse my language, shit like this will happen. Right? Don't get me wrong, the girlfriend is a dirtbag. That's obviously horrible. But if you have a direct will of what you need to do and what you want to do on a piece of paper that's filed with a lawyer or notary, it just makes life a lot simpler.
100%. I agree wholeheartedly. You need to protect your assets. And most importantly for me, when I hear about an article like this, I think about what you're doing to your family and your loved ones that are still here. they're already going through enough through the grieving process. Why would you put that on them to fight over your assets and think about like what your last wishes are? When you are in a, what's the term I'm thinking of? Like when you're in the right state of mind still to make these decisions, we should be making these decisions.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't fall on our family.
Exactly. Now, like, I wrote here is like maybe he would just chew under just, influence of drug, maybe for a long period of time, what have you, is the reason why he did it. But I don't care. I'm saying that it is not about him or her or whatever about the situation. Is the fact that when I talk to some of the people, that even some of my closest friends, I know they don't have a will for anything valuable that they have. And I ask them why they don't have a will, and they can't give me a proper answer. And that, I think, is the core issue to what I get out of this article.
Yeah. You know what? I think part of it, maybe it's like fear of talking about death. At least, in my family, I feel like both my parents probably don't have wills either. And when we open up the subject, it's just kind of like a...
Especially for Asian families.
Silence.
Yeah.
Oh, don't talk about that stuff. Yeah. Like,
like you talk about it, it's going to happen tomorrow. I hate it. Like, I don't want to dive too much deeper into this, but like sometimes I want to talk to my parents about it, but then they make me feel like I'm already a murderer just by talking about it. And guys, honestly, like don't get to a point where, like what Jeff said, you passing away is already very tough for your loved ones, and on top of that, they have to deal with all of this stuff. Not fun. Not fun. Be responsible. Right?
Honestly, it's a very sad situation, and you're right. Maybe he wasn't in the right state of mind. Maybe he was like too high on drugs. But all in all, get a will. Get a will.
Right? Move on to the next one. This one, I'm not too surprised right here. Broadway merchant seeks compensation for lost business. Seems like...
Did we go back in time?
Yeah, like 2005 to 2009 around the Canby Corridor, number 3 road.
Yeah.
That all the merchants was complaining how like it was killing them, so on and so on. This is basically the same thing. Man. First of all, we all drove by Broadway, and let's say Broadway and Canby, Granville and Broadway, or even Oak and Broadway. What a mess is happening right now.
Let's say no parking for starters. All the traffic is just, excuse my language, and I try to avoid that area at all costs. If we didn't have dinner with that client that time, I probably would never gone to Broadway and Granville.
Probably, yeah. And then the dust, because they're digging, right? But what I'm trying to say is, yes, it sucks, but did we expect something different? Is what I'm trying to say. And not that, why am I saying this? Is not like I'm not taking the merchant side. Like I feel for them. Of course, it sucks. They don't have street parking for the consumers anymore. They don't. Some of them don't even have a walkway. The walkway just goes to a dead end. Right? So I really truly feel for them. But it's not like this was not talked about decades ago. And if you were around when Canby Corridor was going through the construction, you would imagine it to be roughly the same. In the article, it says, the merchant says, oh, the government official came and talked to us and says that it's not going to be like a Canby Corridor. It's not going to be like Canada Line. We're not going to do the cover-ups and stuff like that. And I'm in my back of my mind like, are you that naive?
Yeah.
How else are they going to be digging a hole in the street in front of you right underneath it and then pretend like everything is going to be just fine?
Yeah, business as usual.
Like
minimal disturbance.
Right. So anyway, so this was brought up because obviously the merchants along the Broadway area, they're hurting. I know in the article it says there's a subway that closed down because she got into $50,000 in debt. Some of them had to downsize, have to kind of move their business away and stuff like that. And one of them had to kind of start to focus on more online retail kind of shop, even though they don't want to. I don't know why he wouldn't want to. Everybody shops online nowadays, right? However, I think they blow this out of proportion. Jeez, okay, wow, okay, Cream.
That was not me or Joe, that was actually Joe's dog. We're okay.
These merchants are proposing something similar to what the merchants got in Montreal when they were doing their subway extension project as well. So long story short, in 2019, Montreal did a subway extension and they took $25 million out of their budget to compensate the small merchants that was along that line. So it ended up being about $30,000 to $40,000 worth of compensation for each individual merchants per year. I think it's just 1 year. right? And basically, they're hoping, the merchants around Broadway, they're hoping for something similar.
I'm sorry. That's very rude. But I was trying to say, good luck. Given the fact that the government still wanted them to repay the small business loan from COVID, like I cannot foresee any government body willing to do that for the people in Vancouver.
Right. And that's one thing it's funny because it made me think, I've been listening to a lot of different podcasts as well. It's like people think that Canada, just because that province has it, we need to have it as well. Like what I learned is that Canada is not one country. Canada is actually just different provinces operating on their own agenda, right? So you can't be like, look at Quebec. Why can't we have that in BC? Well, because you're BC.
Well, Quebec's not a part of Canada, you know?
Whoa, okay. I'm not going all the way there. Right? But anyway, so obviously then, they really talked about another thing that BC government, like you said, is that they're not biting it. They're like, yeah, no, we're not doing this, right? Because on top of that, they in an article, the BC government also says that they communicated with they did a survey with all 2,826 businesses that's on that line prior to, and they actually sent out 823 owners with briefing packages to kind of let people know that this is happening. So in the BC government mind, they were like, yo, I already told you, like this is what's happening, and you guys okayed it. Like we went ahead with it, right? I didn't hear you guys complaining about it, so why are you guys complaining about it now? It's obviously what BC government is probably thinking in the back of the mind. It's like, I told you, and this is not something that just came out of nowhere and we decided to do it in 2 years. Like everybody knew about the Broadway line and people talked about it for like what, a decade? Probably a decade. Now,
I feel like maybe at the time they just got sucked up into the vision of how great everything was going to be post-construction. We're adding, this many stops. It's going to bring this many people to the area. Transit is going to be streamlined. Business is going to be booming. But if it was me, I probably would have really looked at my business from top to bottom and done some financial planning. Like nobody can foresee the impact that would have on your business.
Right.
From a dollar figure standpoint.
Right.
And I would have to make an assessment on, okay, how much loss can I suffer in this time before it's supposed to be complete? It's supposed to be complete in 2026.
Right.
Not factoring in any delays.
Yes.
So
or administration delays.
We all know with like construction, I mean, like, come on, is this going to actually finish in 2026? I really hope so, but what did they expect?
Yeah, that's the whole thing, right? So now, obviously, some of the merchants, they're asking for any help that's possible. One of the ones that they're proposing here is actually maybe lowering their property tax for that year, which...
Fair.
I don't think the government's going to do it because they're still trying to recover from all that money they gave away during COVID times. I don't think they're going to do it, but fair. Like, I get it. Maybe this is something to think about. And at the end, the article just wrapped up by saying that, they didn't do a full-blown lawsuit just because they are not 100% sure whether they're going to win in court against the government.
Wow.
Yeah. So one of the things is like they will only do it if they know that they're going to win for sure. And I'm just like, first of all, you're going against the government and you're only willing to spend the money if you know you're winning for sure. I get it. They're tight on cash, and throwing money to a lawyer is really not something that they would like to do if they know that this might just go down the drain as well.
This sounds almost like trying to win the lottery. Like the only type of lawyer that I think would take on a case like this is someone trying to make a name for themselves.
Right. Yes. Right. And they get to bill many hours.
Yeah, this probably could take months, if not years.
Exactly. So that's that. Anything that you want to talk about in regards to this before I move on? Overall, like I said, I feel for the merchant, but I mean, I know that there's only so much that it could be done.
I mean, all this talk just brings me a little PTSD from how much I miss the Baskin Robbins that used to be on Cambie and King Edward.
That has nothing to do with real estate, but sure.
But it has to do with me.
Yes.
And I'm in real estate, so it is relatable.
Yes. Okay, So let's move on to another one. This one, sorry, I don't have it on the laptop there. Right here, they are removing the on and off ramp off Granville Bridge in Vancouver.
And construction is starting this year.
This year, very, very soon. Now, for anyone that might not be as familiar with Vancouver, if you go northbound going into downtown Vancouver on Granville Bridge, once you are almost about to hit downtown Vancouver, there's two ramps, an on-ramp and an off-ramp that will connect you from Granville to Pacific or from Pacific on back to Granville.
Yes.
Those two on and off ramps, they're going to be gone. Well, sometime this year, right? I knew about this a long time ago, 70 years ago, when I was selling the building right next to it, Maddox, which is right on Drake. I knew that those roundabouts are going to be gone. They're finally going to be here. In the article, it's actually super funny. They're saying that there's only about, I don't have the article in front of me. I think they're saying that there's only about like 62,000 vehicles that passes there every single day, something like that. And they're saying that by removing the on and off ramp, it's not going to make all that big of a difference because the bridge is wide enough and there's still more than enough access on and off to downtown Vancouver. So they realize that the ramp isn't there for its best use, so they might as well tear it and build some sort of social housing with retail downstairs.
Now,
and then here, sorry, I know that you have your opinion, but one last thing is that one of the things about the article that I just found so funny is that for the people, they're saying that, oh, if you're on Pacific and you want to go on Granville, it's accessible. But instead of just taking an on-ramp, you'll take a right, and take a right again. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah, so I'm gonna make a right on Hornby, go down all the way, maybe make a right on Nelson, and then make another right on Howe.
Something
or on Granville
like that.
To get
on
back
Granville,
on the bridge.
Or Hornby, Drake, Howe. Or Hornby, Davie, Howe.
I'm sorry, but that's just a shit show waiting to happen. I'm so glad that we don't do the same daily commute as people who might work in downtown. And I mean, like, not using the on-ramp or off-ramp, okay. I maybe use the off-ramp to go
I use the off-ramp a lot.
To go to the Pacific? Rarely. I actually rarely use that off-ramp.
What? I use it a lot.
I use the on-ramp to leave downtown way more often than that.
Oh, I'm the reverse. I use the off-ramp a little bit more. Maybe I want to get to the West End.
Yeah.
By, the Japanese restaurants and all that stuff. Or maybe I actually like taking the off-ramp to go on Pacific and then connecting myself onto Denman and then connecting myself onto North Van. Because I feel like I'm not cutting right through the city, dealing with Seymour, dealing with West Georgia and all that stuff. So I actually use the off-ramp quite a bit, I must say.
I wonder if they did a survey.
I'm assuming that they did. I hope they did. Yeah. Right?
Like, we should ask ChatGPT if that was a good idea. See what the AI thinks.
The AI will be like, why are you guys doing this? But anyways, let us know what you think. Do you use the on and off ramp often? I am just curious. But like I said, I kind of slipped that out. It's once the off ramp and on ramp it's done tearing down, they're gonna build 2 high rises on it. They think it's probably going to be market rentals, social rentals, or what have you, with some retails on the ground floor, just to kind of make that neighborhood more lively. Because don't forget, that whole neighborhood started with Vancouver House.
Yes.
So now it's kind of spreading within that neighborhood.
So it'll be done in another 20 years. Just kidding. Hopefully not.
I like the silence. Next, with that being said, let's keep our focus in downtown Vancouver.
Yeah.
As you can see right here, living room.
Wow, what a beautiful living room.
Yeah, I mean, this living room, right? Living room in West End renting for $900 a month. I think I can probably rent this for $900 a month. Basically, long story short, $900 a month in the West End is just a living room. And I think they're saying that it has a TV and it looks like it's like a couch that is a pull-out, and then you're also sharing it with someone else that's staying in the bedroom, and then you share your kitchen, you share your bathroom. Okay, but the good thing about it for this $900 a month is that it comes with parking and it comes with Wi-Fi.
Okay, so not as bad as I originally was envisioning, but
now,
it's still not great.
And now I'm gonna split the story into 2 folds. Okay, number one, and we talked about this many, many times. I really still don't understand how young people survive in this city anymore. Back then, when I was renting for $1,200 a month, this was like 15 years ago. Like I felt it. Like I was like, I don't think I can get savings. And I'm not living in like really nice places. I was living in condos that was built like at the same age as me when I was born, and it was like $1,200 a month already, right? So I was like, oh, okay, this is tough. Now, average rental, you're the rental expert here. It's like what, 2,300? So 2,300, how are you expecting a young person that literally just graduated or still in university to be able to pitch in 2,300 for rent immediately? So what I'm trying to say is I feel like the days where students or younger working forces owning their own condo or renting a full-on condo to themselves, I really feel like those days are over.
No, it used to be something that was like, brought a lot of excitement.
Yes.
Now it sounds like it just brings on a lot of stress.
Yes.
Especially for the people who don't have the luxury of being able to stay at home throughout that process, or for whatever reason they need to move out ASAP.
Yeah.
And even when you and we help clients, like I feel like the average age for first-time home buyers has slowly crept up over the years.
Right. And I think that's what this article is, that emotion that they're trying to play with you. Like, look, everything is so expensive now. I think that's the emotion they're trying to play. And I get it. Like I said, I feel like for example, if in my early 20s, I'm definitely having like 4 different roommates. Back then I have 1.
But it'd be fun back then.
Yeah, kind of. Like when I was living with my roommate, it was kind of fun, but I can't imagine shrinking the size even more, sharing a room with someone, and I'm still paying like $800-900 a month. Like that's crazy. When I had a roommate, I had the master, I had the washroom to myself, I had the bigger bedroom, I have a walk-in closet, and I was only paying like 11. I'm not staying in someone's living room, is what I'm trying to say, and sharing the bathroom, right? So that's on that side of the story. On the flip side of the story is, what I'm trying to say is, considering the average rent for in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver is 23, and $900 for a living room is not too bad. No, if you think about it from a mathematical standpoint.
Yeah, from a number standpoint, you're actually getting a pretty good deal, 100%. Like, and let's say you don't drive, because who can afford a car? If you can afford a car, but you're paying $900 for rent, there's some life decisions that you might want to plan out a little bit differently.
Right.
I won't say better. I'm not these people. I'm not going to speak on their behalf. But for me, I'd probably ditch the car and just rent out that parking spot.
Or just go sleep on your BMW. I was just joking. I'm just joking. But
I hate BMW.
That's exactly why I said it, right? This is the thing. It's like $900, and in the article it says it comes with parking, it comes with Wi-Fi. Okay, let's say that you don't have a car, which once again I agree with you. You shouldn't if you're in this situation in life. So you can rent out that parking space. An average rental for a parking, 150-ish. Let's just take 150, and Wi-Fi is included. Okay, great.
You're saving like $100.
No, let's just go 50. 50 because you don't want to go.
Oh, you're not getting the fiber optic,
the super high end. Let's just go with the 20 gigabyte, what have you. So that is already $200 off of savings. That's included in the $900. So essentially, you're renting this living room for about $700.
Yeah.
Once again, that's why I had the moral story in the front. Mathematically, $700 for a living room when the whole apartment is about $2,300. Once again, it's not that bad. Mathematically speaking. Once again, mathematically speaking.
We'll leave it at that.
But when
anything
that
else sad with
No, that's all I wanted to say. Once again, before you guys call me a cold-hearted asshole, I feel for these young people, and I do feel like there are things that needs to be done to help these 20-year-olds that's literally getting out of university, and I probably have student loan. They need some help. Help them. And once again, it'll be great that they can pick it up as quickly as possible, because they are going to be the main engine of consuming 10 years from now.
If only we all had the help of Bank of Mom and Dad.
Amen to that.
Yeah, everyone who does, count your blessings.
Yes, exactly.
Now, we decided to save the biggest piece of news for last.
That's right.
And I feel like if you have been in and around the real estate industry, you probably have heard about this piece of news by now.
Yeah.
Embattled Vancouver developer in court over $700 million in debt.
Woo!
Now, wow. Just a little bit of change there.
We're talking about $2,300 worth of rent to $700 million in debt.
Yeah, what is the term? That escalated quickly.
Yep.
So a little bit of background. This developer is actually pretty well known. They've been in Vancouver for over 10 years.
Yep.
Joe, you're pretty familiar with some of the projects that they've had.
Yep.
Currently, they do own 16 parcels of land. That's worth nearly $1 billion. And their issue right now is that they can't even service their interest payments.
Yes, because 70%, $1 billion, $700 million, $700 million is in debt. Interest rate has gone up. Now they're stuck.
Yep, and those commercial.
Right, and those commercials as well, right? So, because commercial interest rates are just so much higher.
Yeah, they're not like the average, like what we're paying as residential consumers. So
I mean, that's already high enough, at 5-point-something%. I think they're sitting at like 8-9% or maybe even higher.
Yeah, I can't imagine being a developer and looking at that type of numbers. Like in the article, it says that they have another, they bought another rental property. It's valued at about $80 million, and their rental income is $250K a month.
Yeah.
And that's still nowhere near enough.
For just the interest payment alone.
For just the interest payment, that's shocking. Now, what they want is that they want to file for bankruptcy protection for 6 of those properties. The reason being the total value of those 6 properties, once sold, is actually more than the debt owed. And if they were going to go into foreclosure like the other 10 properties, it would actually be a lose-lose situation.
Right.
Where the stakeholders won't even get their money back.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So like I mentioned, the other properties will go into foreclosure.
The other 10 will go straight into foreclosure.
Correct. Now, this developer, Coral Mandel Properties, well known. They have a lot of projects. I feel for them.
Well, I mean, let's put it this way. You're absolutely right. When I was doing pre-sales, this name just came out of nowhere. And people around me to really, really start to talk about them. And I'm just like, who are these guys? Where are they coming from? And obviously, after a little while, I realized that their background's from China, and they want to kind of move the operation into Vancouver. Right? They started with a bang, is an understatement. Like they came strong, very, very, very strong. And then everybody at that time is just like, they didn't think too much. They're like, oh, foreign money, what have you, good for you. Go do your thing.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm just gonna say is probably because what happened with China's real estate, with their policies, how they can't continue just to borrow money, almost like unlimited money. The tap stopped, and because the tap stopped from their home country, they can no longer support the operation here. Because one thing to know about this particular developer, I think they have about 1 or 2 projects that's on the market to sell. And that's actually kind of like a good news in all the negative news about this is because not all 16 projects has been released out for sale and consumers has put deposit down and stuff like that. Only 1 or 2 of these properties has encountered some situations like that.
I mean, that's definitely the silver lining. Can you imagine if all 16 properties were in the pre-sale phase and not in the infancy stage?
Oh, yeah.
You'd have like atmosphere 16x.
Yeah.
And I think it would affect the average consumer a lot more.
Yes.
At the very least, like, okay, what's going to happen? These properties are going to go into foreclosure. Some developers are going to come in and pick it up, and they're either going to hold it or they're going to build, and more homes will hit the market.
Yeah.
And at first glance, when I saw this, I'm like, oh shit, man, that's really not going to help out our inventory shortage in Vancouver. But I think there is a solution.
I think so. And I think we talked about the 6 out of the 16 they want to keep. I think those ones are the ones that I know that this particular developer, they partner up with some other developers as well. And I think one of the ones that they partner up in around the Oak Ridge area is with Peterson. And Peterson is a very, very, very well known, very rich local company.
Yeah.
I think those are probably the 6 within the 6 that they want to keep because they know that they have backing of funding with another developers and stuff like that. And obviously the other ones that's just under their own name, they're just like, oh, we can't deal with this, let's just foreclose it. And probably because they know that they bought at the peak of the market. Because don't forget, they're aggressive. When they came out with a bang, they were buying aggressively. And what does buying aggressively mean?
I'm gonna pay top dollar.
There we go. There we go. Now, once again, the silver lining is that at least not all the projects that have released is down the drain, and not all the projects that they own has been released. A lot of them are still in infant stages. So overall, the end consumer, we're okay. Fingers crossed. The impact is not going to be detrimental.
No, the impact is really on the lenders. I mean, there was like almost 20 lawyers at the courthouse trying to fight for their clients to get a piece of that pie to make sure that their clients are protected. Can you imagine like being someone who maybe, or a group of people that lent $100 million out to this developer, saw this piece of news, woke up, I would probably have a minor heart attack.
Yeah. And I guess that's what happens. This is, I'm just more shocked that not more of this has happened. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there was another Chinese developer recently. They were just about to kind of, full steam ahead, get things going, but then last minute, the funding from China has stopped, so they completely pulled out. It's Aoyuan, which obviously, they own quite a bit of land. They sold one of the most popular site that people talk to, everybody's talking about recently, which is South Yard, and obviously Anthem bought it from Aoyuan, right? But this is probably just like that one step further into the developer stance than Aoyuan was, because Aoyuan was very aggressively buying all these different sites as well, and they literally just sold everything and then packed their bags and went back to China.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't foresee this happening, but I feel like there's going to be maybe more and more examples of this in the near future.
Hopefully not, but I wouldn't be all too surprised, because like realistically speaking, this is what we always tell people is like, look, when you buy a pre-sale, you really need to understand who is the developer. Do they have the backing or do they have the funding if shit is gonna go south? Right? And this is basically what we're always trying to say. However, Vancouver has been in this growth phase for like, not just Vancouver, honestly, like the globe has been in this growth phase for real estate in the last 10 to 15 years that it seems like a lot of people tend to forget.
What goes up must come down.
Exactly. And there are risks with buying pre-sales. There is always risk with buying pre-sales, no matter if it's a smaller developer or the biggest developer, but obviously you're just trying to limit your risk with at least buying with a developer that has a good track record. Nothing is perfect, but if you can lean yourself more closer towards everything's gonna be fine, why not?
Imagine if one day we run into a situation where a developer says, hey, yeah, your build quality is shitty, but at least I built it.
Oh man.
The last thing I probably want to say about this article, which is like a bit of a saving grace, and is that the director of Coromandel actually stated that he will inject $1 million of his own funds into the company to kind of keep things going and prop it up, which speaks to me a lot about social responsibility, and I'm happy to see that, because he could have easily just been like, sorry, bankrupt, ciao, don't come after me personally. This is the corporation.
Well, I think there's a reason why he wants to do that, because he wants to be in the court's good books, because he does want that they want to see it through, because then that way he will actually not lose as much money, because if they can see those 6 projects go through, make the money, and maybe they'll be able to recoup a little bit of those losses. Hopefully. So there's a reason behind it, but I get it is good. And then my second thing is $1 million is a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But when you're in $700 million in debt, what is $1 million going to do for you? Maybe an interest payment for a month, 2 months. So on the second thing is, another way I'm thinking about it is that they might use this $1 million to buy a little bit more time, just to see what they can do or what they cannot do, right? So interesting story. When it first initially came out, I was shocked, because I have heard of this developer. I have dealt with their staff and stuff like that. I thought they were going to be a huge player going forward, honestly speaking, and all of this came out. What a shocker. But like you said, you come out with a bang. When things go south, you took a lot of risk, and now the risk is burning you in the backside. There. So once again, as a consumer, guys, like, please, the disclosure statement, the first several pages, read it. You have to understand the developer and their background and where their money is coming from. That's probably the best thing that you can do to yourself when you want to invest something so expensive that you won't be able to touch it or feel it 5 to 6 years down the road. There you go.
Exactly.
Right? And with that being said, that is it for our first news roundup. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Once again, we didn't get into all the full details about every single article. If we do, this will be a 3-hour podcast. If there's anything that we missed about any of this article, or there's an article that you found that you want us to kind of talk about it, let us know. Send it to our email, or just, you have our number, just text it or just give us a call. All right. With that being said, my name is Joe.
My name's Jeff.
We're the Mike for Vancouver Real Estate. You know what to do.
Like, subscribe, comment, help us with the algorithm, really boost our metrics.
Yeah.
So,
and hopefully you guys like this new format of news of the month. And we do look forward to see you guys next week with a different topic. See ya.